All right, all right, all right.
All right, all right, all right.
Is this still remembering me, or this is different? Yeah, I think
I
it
feel
is.
like my stomach fell. Let me unbutton this.
We not that type of show.
As long as the zipper don't come all the way down.
As long as the
Zipper.
no, what's the new word? She don't like to say the p word. I'm nasty, so I be saying all of that. So she'll only say it at a certain time, which of course would never be on camera. So tell the people what's your new pronunciation of the p word.
I can't.
That's what the word is for. You want me to do it?
Yeah, you tell them.
She came up with the pronunciation poussoir. She will only say the p word under certain circumstances. So outside of that,
Yeah,
say
cause
it. Close your eyes.
no,
Close your eyes and say it.
no,
Come on.
no. It just sounds like the p word sounds like lemons.
Not when we.
No.
All right, look. We getting carried away. This is still remembering me. So go ahead.
Welcome to another episode of Remembering Me, a soul healing podcast. I'm Candace Love.
I'm your boy, Brick City Buddha, also known as Docs.
And today is going to be a different type of episode. This is something we were just randomly doing while packaging orders and thought it would be a good idea to just bring it to our platform.
Yeah, she asked me while she was packing up. She said, "Do I know everything about you?" I had to sit there and think about it for a second. And for the most part, we share everything. So initially my answer was, yeah, you know everything I know about myself. But then as we started to dig into the conversation, there were not blind spots, nothing major, nothing crazy, but things that were just interesting for us to be able to discuss and ask each other. So we think that this is a beautiful exercise for people to do that's in relationships. If you're getting to know somebody, coming up with a set of questions where you could like really peer into their life beyond what you're privy to while they're with you. And we're going to do that with each other right now. Some of these questions we dug into a little bit yesterday. Some of them we have no idea what we're about to ask each other. Be nice.
I'll see what I can do.
Right? So bear with us. We're going to have our phones. It's not going to be the usual episode. It's not going to be super long. But we just felt like it was a great exercise to bring to our audience. So without further ado.
Gentlemen first.
Okay. So we're going to face each other, y'all.
This is so exciting.
All right. Make sure it's not too much of the scratchiness on there. Yeah. Matter of fact, we sound fine.
Yeah.
Need some of that. That's on, right?
Yeah, and y'all ignore my pants.
Okay. So, you ready?
I
Cal, is you
ready?
All right, so my first question. You talked about just this morning, you was laughing and looking at me because I got a haircut. Y'all know how I go, fellas. When we get a haircut, all of a sudden they fall back in love. Arguments only happen when you're about 2-3 weeks away from a haircut. So I'm back. And she was just looking at me, well, you was looking at me smiling, talking about, you know, I always thought if I was going to get married, that he was going to have to be ugly or fat. Right? So beyond just those attributes, what type of man did you envision ending up with?
Oh.
So we already got ugly and fat. What else?
And the ugly and fat is just because, like, I was prepared for anything. Like, I was prepared. It didn't feel like a relationship or a marriage was going to happen for me. So it's like that felt like it was more of a chance.
And keep in mind, no shade to the quote unquote uglier or fat dudes. Some of y'all getting the most poussoir out here, so
Facts.
It's no shade.
Facts, yeah. I was prepared for a Rick Ross.
That's what I had in my head when you said it. Like, oh, you wanted Ross.
Yeah, I was prepared for a Rick Ross. But What my ideal?
What did you envision
What did
besides
I
just the
envision?
aesthetic? Like this actually applies to one of my other questions, so I put it all in one. Like a lot of people don't know about me unless they're around me. Is that I'm pretty silly. I'm very much in touch with my inner child. So, did you envision being with a brother who was very serious, who didn't have that aspect, like those types of things? What did you
Right.
envision? Yeah.
I think my vision was more so centered around wounds. So my vision was someone that was just gonna baby me and take care of me and make love to me and just kind of be all of the ideas of what I thought like a man would be,
What do you what do
including
you
silly.
what do you mean when you say baby?
So like last night we were in the bed. Last night we were in the bed watching a movie and I had a really long day and I was really tired and I felt myself being like moody in a sense. And so what I've learned is to just ask for what I want. And I was like, can you baby me? And you were like, what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? And I just wanted to lay on your chest and for you to rub my back and watch a movie with me. But me being in your arms, it makes me feel really small and really taken care of. And not small in a bad way, but small, like dainty. And that was one of the things that I envisioned is like always being like taken care of in that way.
Did you envision a rich nigga?
I think there were times where I envisioned making love in a loft against a window overlooking downtown. So it wasn't necessarily about him being rich. It was about like certain experiences.
Which we still been able to
Absolutely.
have. Okay.
The balconies is adding up at this point. So, and you remember I told you since I'm only child, my imagination is something that took me very far. So I can be in front of hundreds of people in meetings and not even be there because I just stayed in an imaginary place. So I've always had like visions of what I thought it would be. And you are the most unrealistic vision that I've ever had because it's like, this wasn't just my imagination because I was bored in front of a meeting. Like all of those things you really exemplify.
And last part on the envisioning, old or young?
As far as age?
Yeah, how old did you think he was going to be or young?
Yeah, I always knew he would have to be older. Yeah, that was something I wanted. So once I found out how old you were, I was like, oh yeah, there we go.
Got me an old nigga.
Yeah, there we go. I always wanted older.
Okay, you off the hook for the first one. So by now y'all should have an idea how this is going to flow.
Right. Okay. So my first question is, was there ever a point in our relationship that you thought it would not work out?
My bad. Nah. It's me. Of course, the only time that was actually one of my questions. But yeah, the only time. Matter of fact, I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say no for right now. And when I come to that question, we'll dig into that together a little bit more. I'm gonna save that. But no, I always knew. From even before we started to become semi-romantic, which was, of course, 1,400 miles away, like we always talk about. Even when I first saw you in that picture on your birthday, September 30th, the bikini, I always talk about the black bikini. I think the thick song it wasn't on that picture, but it was in that timeline. So I saw that picture, I read your caption, I'm like, oh, hold up, what we got here, right? But not in that way. But even when I was like perusing through your page, I kind of knew you was going to be my wife. And my mind frame wasn't even working on that yet. I wasn't planning on hollering at you, approaching you. Again, you reached out to me to thank me for me just supporting you and sharing your stuff because I felt like you was worthy of that. I had no plans on reaching out, but I guess the subconscious part of me, my spirit was like, oh nah, that's the one, bro. So yeah, I knew you wasn't going nowhere. I wasn't gonna F this up.
I love that.
I'm gonna go with. All right, so I'll follow up with the question, being that you just asked that. So there was a certain point where, of course, all this was new to us, and not just this level of love, but also you had an idea that you never wanted to be with a man who had kids, who already had some semblance of a family. That was part of what you envisioned that you forgot to mention, right? So you had made the choice to just kind of go with it, and at a certain point, of course, I was trying to figure it out too. You realized that I wasn't dishonoring you in any like extracurricular way, but you would notice that when I would get into it with my son's mother, how much it would affect my emotions, and how what I thought was nobility, what I thought was me holding my own weight, was kind of checking out on you because I wouldn't be as available to you. We would talk every day except for one of those experiences. So it got to a point where he was like, look, it was like close to New Year's, like I want to be happy right now. And I respect where you at, but if we're going to continue, you're going to have to figure out a way to be able to still handle that, do what you got to do, but still honor me at the same time. So that was the first time you had kind of gave me any type of ultimatum as far as like me keeping you in my life. So from that point, when you put that request out, you put that need out, from that point to when you realize, oh, he gets it. Oh, he's making those strides. He's making those shifts. When did you realize I was going to be able to figure it out?
Yeah, so, that was a hard conversation because, we were having such a great time in our newly forming union. And the aspect of not wanting to date someone who had kids, that was the reason why, because it just kind of gets like murky. And so after I let you know that this is something that I'm not sure that I can be a part of if you don't have the capacity to evolve in this way, I was preparing my energy to detach, preparing my energy to let go and be okay with that and not be upset, or there was no like sinister energy or upset energy, but it was just like, this is not going to work for me. And I took some time, maybe like a day, 2 days.
I'm thinking she about to check out for like a week or a month. And not to cut you off, but had I not developed the capacity to allow you that space, because I used to be an aggressive resolver, one of the processing styles I talk about, where people are like in a rush to get towards resolution.
Yeah.
So a previous version of me wouldn't have been able to be comfortable enough to allow you the space you needed to figure out what you needed. And same for myself, I would have just worried the whole time and not done my own due diligence, looked at myself, really to do some of the things that you had pointed out that I didn't realize, because not only was I checking out on you, I was checking out on the peaceful, happy version of myself.
Absolutely.
Every time. So I realized, for myself, I got to take some control back. So I was grateful in those 2 days, right, that you was gone. But I needed that message for myself as well. My bad. I ain't mean to cut you off. I had to throw that in.
Yeah, because I think for me, it was like I would have all of you. And then in those moments, it was like a person that I just didn't know. I mean, you wasn't doing nothing crazy. You were just feeling. But I didn't have any access to you anymore. And that was triggering things from my past with exes in the picture. And so I had to make a solid decision. And once I brought that to your attention and we were able to have the conversation, you instantly got it. Like there was no pushback. It was a straight solution. And that was the indication that this is not the same as what I've experienced in the past. Because one, I would have never brought it up. I would have just ended things. So this was a new situation for me where I'm like, oh, I can actually express how I feel, it be received, and then if there is an agreement while you receive that information, like a change can be implemented. And that's what you immediately did. And it wasn't just for me. It was you recognizing that she had way too much control, and it was you severing that relationship, taking those claws out of her being able to say things that could instantly hurt you, that were intentionally meant to be hurtful, and you learning how not to allow those things to have any impact on you. And I feel like that was part of the purpose God put me in your life as well, for you to really start to stand strong in honoring, not allowing anybody, not even me, to have that much power over your emotions.
That's what I was about to say, because like source, universe, God doesn't waste. Like I always tell Marty, no waste. So we scrape the plate. But she was being used to push me to that point. You was being used to expose the points I was being pushed to. So I remember, and you said many times, can't nobody tell me nothing about you, right? Once you made that statement, I instantly started to adjust and implement. But of course, I had to become seasoned in it.
For sure.
But over time, like that was the seed that was planted to get me to realize I need to be able to defend docs as well as my wife does. And it don't mean I can't take like healthy ridicule. I can't accept a different perspective of myself that can push me forward. But at the same time, I know myself extremely well at this point. So that was a beautiful point where you helped me to like break a program beyond just my son's
Absolutely.
mother, but of other people's perceptions, OPP, like I always talk about. So even in a moment where it felt like I may possibly lose you, I, like you was even in saying I may need to step away from this relationship, that was still you kind of digging into my spirit, into my heart, into my soul, and saying, here, this is what you need.
Yeah.
And that has to come in the package where the urgency and the desperation of I may lose this woman is what's going to be the soil around the seed that nothing else to that point in my life had made grow. Right. And then before we transition to your question, was there any point where you felt like that inability I had at a certain point was like the other men who chose other women?
I'll say no, because in those relationships, I never even got that far. I never expressed how it made me feel. So I never had the opportunity to be in a place to where I felt safe enough to even think that a change could come from it. So this was completely different, but the wound was the same. The trigger was the same. There being an ex, somebody that's just always lingering in the back in some way, that was the narrative, that was the trigger. So you being completely different, how you handled it being completely different, how you implemented being completely different. I never even got that far with other people, because once the trigger happened, I was gone.
Your turn.
Okay. Actually, I don't even have to look at my phone, because this is a part of my question. You mentioned how when we were speaking at a time, I told you that I didn't want to date someone who had kids. How did that make you feel?
Do you remember at what point you said that? Was that within that conversation, or that was before?
I think, I don't know. I'm not sure. I remember where I was, though.
Where were you at?
Where I was when I said it. I was at a shop getting like sage and Palo Santo, standing outside, waiting to go inside. And I don't know how the conversation happened, but I remember that I made it extremely clear. But it wasn't extremely clear like I didn't want to date you because
It
you
was
had
just conversation.
kids. It was just me acknowledging that that's something that I've always said and stood by.
I don't think it made me feel bad. I know it didn't make me feel bad. I think it gave me more awareness of the sacrifice you was making to, I guess, take the risk of being in this type of situation. And, you know, there was no rings on your finger yet. You could have easily just went your way whenever you felt like it. But to give it a shot, it gave me more awareness of your level of sacrifice, your level of being able to pivot, to change your mind. I was talking to my barber, my new barber. Shout out to my brother Cole, Cole the barber. I'm gonna have him on the platform soon. But we was talking about, women, talking about you. He was talking about his lady, and he was like, you really don't know if a woman is like capable of riding with you until y'all are put in a difficult situation together. So he gave me his example of how she showed him, and I was talking about when we was at the airport. Of course, you showed me many times previous to that. But to be in a situation where you could have easily complained my head off or not trusted my ability to help us get out of the situation, like you never complained the whole day, and there's been so many different situations like that. So I think that was the first like really big one. Was like, hold up, this is something that's extremely make or break for most women. Most women not even going to entertain a conversation as soon as they find out, oh, you got a kid, I'm good, right? And in the conversation, we had already got past the plateau of you like, nah, I'm here. I want to experiment and see where this go. So it didn't make me upset. It just gave me more appreciation and awareness for how expansive your heart was at that point.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I thought about that because I think that was the intention, was to just have you acknowledge that this is something new for me. But it's always kind of lingered in the back of my head, like, did that hurt his feelings? Because that wasn't my intention. But I wanted to ask just to.
It actually made me feel fortunate too. On top of that, we know at this point, knowing our life story individually, and how many things had to fall in place at every point, every stage, every day of our life to get us to come together. Those type of things can like really block a relationship from blooming. So I was also grateful, like something potentially that big did not block you from at least experimenting with me and seeing where this could go. So I also felt fortunate. There was no negativity when you said that.
Okay.
Plus,
good.
I'm a G, so
absolutely.
It's my turn.
It's your turn.
All right. Okay. Speaking of the things that had to go right for us to come together, what age did you lose your virginity? And how did that experience impact your idea of and relationship with sex?
That's a great question. So I lost my virginity when I was 18. But it was a beautiful experience. I didn't have like one of those horror stories. Everything was like how I feel a young girl would envision it being. I felt that safe, that protected. It was romantic, like all the things that I needed to have that stamped as a nice experience. Now all the shit that happened after that was a different story, but that experience was nice. In regards to how that shaped how I viewed sex in relationships, it shaped it in a nice way, in a healthy way. But the things that happened after that tainted it. So how I was treated after the fact, after you allow someone into your space and everything is beautiful, and then even though it wasn't like he had sex with me and then just started acting crazy, it wasn't like that. The relationship just wasn't going to work in general, but the way he went about it was very mean and unhealthy. So, but for that being my first time, allowing someone into like your personal space and then they treat you that way, and then an ex comes into the situation, even in something that is as beautiful as the first time is, the things that follow that situation, because now I'm so attached, can also be traumatic. So an ex came into the situation with that, and so it kind of shaped my idea around me offering myself to someone being a traumatic experience, because I don't know how they will treat me after the fact.
So with that being said, how do you look at the experience of losing your virginity? Like, is there retroactive violation on top of the moment itself because of what happened after, or do you still look at it as a beautiful moment to usher you into having sex?
No, that was a beautiful moment to usher me into having sex. I was extremely like safe. I felt free. I felt I didn't feel self-conscious. One of the things at 18, he always made sure that I felt beautiful. He would even have me like repeat it. Like, tell me that you feel beautiful. Remind me that you are beautiful. Those types of things. So I had a very safe environment in that moment. So that moment wasn't tainted. It was just all the stuff afterwards.
And it's interesting too because I lost my virginity at 18. We was talking about on the King Cave. If y'all haven't checked it out, please make sure y'all hit my page up. We got 2 episodes out right now.
Yeah.
And the first episode, myself, my brother Herbal Chemistry, Detox, AJ McQueen, we all attested to being late bloomers.
Yeah.
And the idea of black men is that, we sexual predators. We come out the womb trying to, have sex and things of this nature. So my relationship with sex, my ideology of it was also based on a beautiful experience. And that kind of set the template, that set the foundation for me to like, that coupled with my father still being with my mother to this day. I know my father has never stepped out in any way, shape, or form. That's just not the type of being he is. It's not the type of man he is. So with those 2 different poles, that carried me a long time. That's why my first 15 years of being sexually active, it was 2 relationships. Now, towards the end of the second relationship, being that it was so traumatic, I did start to cheat, and that's when my quote-unquote whole phase started to happen. But initially, me being with a woman that I was in a relationship with at that time, she was my girlfriend. She understood I was a virgin. I didn't feel no pressure. When I finally felt like I was ready after a few shots of corn liquor, I made my first time experimenting with alcohol, right? She was just, she was okay being a tutor, if you will. And that apprehension that you feel like, bro, I'm 18, I ain't had no sex yet, I'm gonna be terrible. She kind of like held me in a way that was beautiful for me, because if your first experience is bad as a man, that can get in your head. Like we was watching the funny movie the other day, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and it was a newlywed couple, and the dude was a virgin. I guess she was a little more experienced than him, and it gave him apprehension. Like he would feel like he would want to throw up because he just didn't know what he was doing. So to have that, but also have the sanctity and purity of having somebody I loved in that moment, that did carry me for a long time, and seeking out those type of connections in ways where it wasn't just randoms. I learned that behavior way later due to trauma and what a lot of my other brothers was doing, but the synchronicity of us both being 18, having beautiful experiences with our boyfriend and girlfriend. Like we don't be lying about how many things have been in alignment way before we connected.
Right. Yeah. And it's really rare that people have a beautiful first experience. So we both were able to have at least that foundation. So yeah. Okay. So my next question is, do you have a most embarrassing moment?
Absolutely. I got a few. Now I'm gonna go with the main one. I was young, so the full force of it didn't hit me in that moment, but it was still crazy. I think I told you this, or my father told you this. So we would go to Virginia a lot, and we was gonna get on the ferry to go to Chesapeake Bay or something like that. I'm like 5 years old. I was probably like four or five. Because Marty is 5. I'm like, damn, he would never do this. But, they more advanced these days. So I'm in the back seat. And at that time, whenever we would travel, Spam was super popular back then. It came back around. People like Spam again. But it was a time with like Spam. Ew. Right? So we will always have, my mother would make Spam sandwiches. Right? Some of them would be mayo. Some of them would be mustard. She would pack up like 50 of them things. Our little 2-liter bottles of Pepsi. So we would just be down in our sandwiches on the way, and I was in the back seat, my sister right next to me, my parents in the front. I had to use the bathroom, right? But for some reason, I was waiting for somebody to ask me, do you need to go to the bathroom? I guess I was at that transitional point, was like, no, you need to say that. Let one go, pooped on myself, and just pure as day, just like looking out the window, right? And all of a sudden, my sister was like, ew, My father looked back. Jeffrey, what are you doing? Takes me out the car. He got to take me into the Chesapeake Bay shopping center. Mind you, I got the tube socks with the stripes at the top. Shorts at that time was mad high. It's Dookie sliding down my legs, and my father got to walk me through this joint, clean me up. So, yeah, that was my most embarrassing moment.
Oh, my goodness.
Y'all should send me a cash app for that. That's still traumatic. But, yeah, that's it. What about you?
One. I do. I think my embarrassing moment is what taught me not to be embarrassed in future moments. So I was young. I don't know how old I was, but I had a wraparound skirt. And I thought I was Beyonce's little sister for real at this time. I was coming into myself. So probably like middle school. Okay. Old enough to remember that I was really embarrassed. Okay. And this is when like my mama would, drop us off at the mall so we can just go walk around with our friends.
And look for boys.
And I had this wraparound skirt on that I loved. I found at a thrift store and it was so pretty. But when I put it on, I didn't really know how to do it the proper way. So I was just like, as long as I tie a knot, it wasn't going to come off. So I go to the mall, I'm walking around the mall, I'm cute. But when it was time to leave, it was like a really windy day. And I walked outside. It wasn't Macy's at the time, it was Foley's. I walked outside and this wind just like kicked up. And I'm walking to my mama's car and all I hear is my mama say, "Where are your clothes?" And I look up and my skirt is in the air.
You're doing the Marilyn Monroe out here.
It is flying. Like it's just down the street in the air. It came off. It flew off. In the mall parking lot, like it's just flying in the air, like it was a tornado.
And you just in your panties?
In my panties, looking slow, running to the car because I can't run and chase. Oh my God. I can't chase it because it was such like a silk kind of skirt. So and it was like a short skirt. So if the wind take it, it's going. It ain't like it's like sliding it on the ground. It was in the air, just flying away.
People was looking and laughing.
I feel like they were.
You don't even know.
I don't know. I was so embarrassed. It felt like the world was looking and laughing. And that was my most embarrassing moment.
That qualifies. I got you beat, but that qualifies.
You definitely got me beat. You definitely got me beat.
All right. We're going to do probably 2 or 3 more questions. I got a client soon, and we don't want to make these too long. So, all right, here we go. What do you least like about your husband?
I feel like this is such an unfair question. I don't like the terminology of least alike. Okay. But the one thing that I notice,
I think I know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
Is that when you eat, sometimes you smack on your foot.
That was it. I know you was gonna say that.
That was it. That's really it. That's always been like this thing. But I read a study that says that if people smacking on their food, their chips or their gum, if it bothers you that much, it's something like psychologically happening within the person, to where to where those specific sounds is really doing something to their nervous system. So when it happens, I try not to, just feel away. But my instinct is as soon as I hear a smack, I got to turn around and look. I got to look at you like, you don't hear that? And it's everybody. It's my mama. It's anybody. But I think that's the one thing where I'm like,
All right, so that's an actual thing?
It's an actual thing.
I had a client where we had this session already, and her birthday was coming up. I had worked with them as a couple, and she was like, "Doc, I had a question for you." And she was like, "I have this thing called misophonia, where people with misophonia are affected emotionally by common sounds, usually those made by others. breathing, yawning, chewing. So misophonia is an actual thing. That's why I was looking it up. But she was like, her birthday is coming up, and I want to be. No, her husband had it, and she was like, I want to just go out with my family, but I know he has a thing where he can't really go to restaurants because he'll literally get sick. So yeah, that is a thing, and I'm cool with that. It'll even be times if we in close quarters, I'm like, yo, I'm about to eat. You want me? Let me go in the other room. So it's always gonna be little things, like it has nothing to do with how we love each other.
For sure.
People are people.
Yeah.
People are beings, individual, got their own quirks, idiosyncrasies. One of my favorite words.
So what about me though? Something that you notice, or you can use your terminology.
It don't have to do with you.
What is it?
It has to do with our styles of upkeep in the house.
Okay.
One of them I ain't got to worry about no more.
This is facts.
You know which one I'm talking about?
Putting up the what?
I ain't got to deal with no hair in the sink. I ain't got to deal with no hair in the tub. So yeah, the hair thing. And then, did you see what I did today?
You put the dishes away.
Nah, that's one of the things I've been accommodating for you.
Yeah.
Did you see the garbage? I'm very big on recycling.
Yeah.
I just like to take care of Mama Earth in any way I can.
Yeah.
So I've told you a bunch of different times where to put the plastic and all of that. So I actually put on the recycle one, plastic, cardboard. And when I wrote it, because I'm like, all right, should I go tell her? But I don't want to have to keep telling her. She get tired of me saying it. So I'm like, all right, let me just write it on here. And after I wrote it, I looked at it like, that looks so passive aggressive, even though I ain't even mean it like that. But yeah, that's the main two things.
I think that's great though, because I genuinely forget.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, like, can I recycle plastic?
Right.
Like, so no, that's I like that.
Okay. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. All right, your turn.
It's my turn.
Yeah, this will be your last one.
So my last question, I feel like is a great question too. If you didn't think Marty was moving to Atlanta, would you have ever moved to Houston or planned to progress our relationship forward outside of long distance?
Yeah, I've thought about that many times actually. So that's a great question. Like when, and you know, like how your business ideas come to you, same thing with me. And just how we move in general, it's literally like consciousness spilling down through the crown and I got to do something. So that's kind of how it happened for me, because you had never asked me. And when we was having this conversation yesterday, being that you had never asked, so what are we? Are you going to move here? Are we going to get married? I asked you yesterday from the point where I proposed, how long do you think it would have been before that itch started to kick in where it's like, all right, what we doing? At that point when I proposed, we had maybe 7 months before we met in the physical. And then from that point, going back and forth, traveling for about a year. So we was almost 2 years in at that point. So you was pretty much saying like probably the 2.5, 3 year mark, you'd have been like, all right, what we doing? So when the download came to me long before you had to feel any of that, of course, the alignment of Marty was involved. But when the download came, that was almost like an afterthought. When I received like, okay, it's time. Oh yeah, Marty about to be, it was that. So even though I always talk about it being a huge part of the decision making, it was more so on the back end. The decision was already the decision that we needed to share the same space, and not even just for our relationship, for what we are here to do, our purpose in this grid, and how we amplify that for each other. It was just to the point where long distance wasn't going to be able to cultivate that no more. So regardless, Marty's still in Jersey anyway. You've asked me, like, you feel like you need to move back to New Jersey, I'll be okay with it. I'm not going nowhere. I knew I needed to be here regardless of what was going to happen with Marty.
I love that. Thank you, baby.
What did you think? Did you think that was the case?
What?
That regardless of where Marty was going, I was still coming.
Ooh, I didn't.
So you just learned that? You just learned that now?
I know, because I've asked you in a roundabout ways this question before. Ways like, do you want to move back to New Jersey? Do you think that's what's best? So I've asked those questions like in those ways, but I never just like flat out asked. But I did think that it was gonna be dependent upon where Marty was, and I was partially okay with that. But yeah, I don't think that I knew.
You learn something new every day.
Every day.
All right, so 2 questions in one on my last one, and this will be our last one. You don't gotta ask no more.
Okay.
What's your body count? I'll give you mine too. And then how did you know, or when did you know that I was the one?
Okay, that's good. So my body count is 5. I've done a lot of work. You actually were a catalyst to me doing a lot of work in like healing my womb. Once the conversation came up about having children, if that was something we wanted, and you just kind of instilling like you are already a mother, like remember that, honor that. And so that called me to now go to my womb, and if I am a mother, then I need to heal the space within me. So that's where I was able to sit down and really heal the number. Because there was a part of me growing up to where even 5, I felt like a straight hussy. Like, oh my God, I can't believe, like there was so much shame around the number. And not even just the number, it was shame around what caused me to have sex with some of those people, because I wasn't in relationships with all of them. So it was a lot of shame in around those areas, and you really were the catalyst to me like healing a lot of that.
And then the second question, how did you know I was the one? When? What experience?
Yeah, so just like that, remember when we first met, I was already on my healing journey. You were already on your healing journey. But when you no when you have the right person, they kind of like escalate certain things. They show you certain things, like they become a mirror and just kind of show you themselves, yourself. And that's kind of what happened when I was with you. I started recognizing that my healing started advancing even faster, because you were just holding up such a mirror to where I was like, oh, I need to acknowledge that, or oh, I never did womb work, or whatever the case was. I had never even looked in the mirror at my full body in 4 years until you told me to go get a full-length mirror. And now we got like 2-3 of them. And so I knew, because everything about me elevated instantly as soon as you came into my life. I saw myself for the first time. I was healing deeper and deeper and deeper. I lost 60 something pounds, things that I had been attempting to do for 7+ years. I started to work for myself. They happened within the first 6 months of us talking. Like most people, it takes them a year and change to lose 60 something pounds. I did it in 6 months. Quitting my job, being an entrepreneur, all of these things happen based on conversations we had, certain things you would say that would kind of like trigger things that I'm like, whoa, I need to sit with that. So everything about you elevated me. And that's why when it comes to like business or my confidence or how I see myself, a lot of that I champion you in that conversation, because you were the conduit and the catalyst for all of those things to happen. Yes, I had to do the work by myself, but you held up such a pristine mirror that if you wouldn't have been the catalyst or the conduit, those things would not have happened, in my opinion, and they would not have happened at that rate. And now I don't think that they would have happened or come to me from a peaceful place of love that you were able to generate.
So it was a culmination of moments.
Yeah, it was a lot of moments to where, because it happened instantly. As soon as we started talking, everything started changing instantly. So there was no way that I could ever back out or have like second thoughts because everything was in alignment. It was almost like God saying, well, girl, if you don't see how perfect this is, then I don't know what to tell you. And that was very clear to me from jump.
Even with a perception that I can't be with a man who got kids, still being able to see the perfection of what it was.
Because I was also able to see this is forcing me to heal certain things, even with things that's happened with you and your son's mom. I couldn't just write that off as, see, this is why I didn't want to.
Right.
It wasn't that. It was like, no, this is actually triggering things from my past, so I can actually go back and acknowledge them.
Right.
So you were helping me see way bigger pictures than my wounds wanted me to. And I couldn't deny that. Like, we were in sync and meant for each other on so many ways. On top of that, just how perfectly you loved me, your voice.
Talk that talk.
I saved, I don't think people know this, but I saved voice memos.
Oh, they know. You posted it
I
the other
did,
day.
yeah. I saved voice memos of you from the very beginning, and I would listen to them every night before I would go to bed. It just felt like you were there with me. So it was things that I had never done before that was like, oh no, this is very different. This is it. Yeah.
Okay.
Same questions.
Oh, we don't got time. I already posted Why You the One. Well, when I knew you was the one. So y'all can go check out my page. I will get my body count real quick. I'm somewhere between like 15 and 20. That don't sound like a lot, and it's like, why are you writing a book like Memoirs of a Former F-Boy if that's the case? But like I said, the first 15 years of my sexual activity, I was in relationships. That's what I saw with my father. I wanted family for a long time. But when I got to that point where I did start to step out on my ex at that time, that's when I kind of started to wow. And that between 15 and 20 got amassed within a short period of time. So I was able to have a glimpse of what it's like to be a true F-boy, and like stack numbers up. I wasn't trying to do that. I was low-key like trying to heal wounds through other women, which of course I talk about in that book. But compared to what I've heard from a lot of my peers, my male peers, we talking about 50 before they leave high school. So I am glad that to a certain degree, spirit life kind of protected me, and to a certain degree conserved my energy for you. Even with the 15 to 20, I did a lot of work just like you did to not just get those energies out of my spirit, because there was still places when we was with those people for us to learn things. But we both did tremendous work to purify ourselves and to be open for each other. So I'm glad I don't have like a 100 number. No shade to anybody who do, but just for my particular journey, I don't know if I would have been able to make it back from going that deep. No pun intended, into my sexuality. I don't know if I would have made it to my wife. So thank you, Source. Thank you, myself. Thank you, life. But yeah, 15 to 20.
Yeah, I love that.
So without further ado, this is we'll continue this every now and then. We'll throw one of these in.
This is fun.
We'll have different questions, and again, this is also to inspire y'all in y'all relationships. Even if you getting to know somebody and y'all vibing, whether these questions or y'all come up with y'all own, these are ways where we can like dive deeper into each other. Because one of the things we said, I had asked her, like, once we realized how much we know about each other, and then we started to even find new things out via the questions we had yesterday, I was like, do you think people like in long-term relationships, 10, 15, 20 years can say that they know everything about that person? And to a large degree, people can't say that.
Yeah.
To a large degree, people don't even really know who they with outside of the trauma bonds and the things that they actually do resonate on. They don't really even know that person 20 years in. So we got to just be intentional and forthright in doing that work to find out, who am I with?
Yeah, and start getting excited about inquiring about things that may make you feel uncomfortable. Because even when it comes down to the body count, as surface of a question as people think that is, they just brush off. But let's dig into, why does it feel so uncomfortable for you to say the number? Is there still shame underneath? acknowledging that. So it's the places where we don't really go, or the places where it's like that doesn't really matter, or the things that we just don't put an emphasis on. There may be a layer of getting to know your partner deeper underneath those questions. So I just think that that's extremely important to know each other in and out.
So we survived. Episode 1 of this series. What we gonna call this? The questions. And Most Def got a song called The Questions. Most Def and Common Sense will like splice that in going forward when we have these episodes.
Yeah,
the
it's nice. The questions.
All right, remembering me, we just put up, or will be putting up, that episode from last week that didn't make it to YouTube. We got a fancy new camera, still figuring that out.
Yeah.
So that'll go up. This episode will go up. I also have my first cooking video.
Yeah.
I show you how to make a medicine salad. Salad may not seem sexy until you see how I make mine, but
Fire.
I'll do more of my recipes going forward, but that will be going up. King Cave coming soon.
Yeah.
11/2, November 2nd, 6:30 p.m. on my IG Live. The next Sundays with Source will be the first Sunday in November. You got anything? Books? Sasha Flowers?
Sasha Flowers is available. My skincare, that's available to order on sashaflowersskincare.com. You can also order my book at candicelove.com. I'm in the process of creating new things, new offerings as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'll also be dropping a 5-pack of very powerful breathing exercises that you could purchase. Somebody reached out to me about doing that. They want to get more into breath work. It's not a lot of people of color, black men, guiding that. So these going to be short, little private YouTube clips that once they up, you can, sign up. You purchase one, you can get one, you can get the whole pack. But that's coming soon too. So look out for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, y'all. Love.
Talk to y'all soon.